Well, good afternoon, good evening, or good morning if you happen to be in mountain time in Colorado at the moment. And I am delighted, absolutely delighted to have Jeff and Martha from the Durango and Silverton Railroad, who I believe are in Durango right at this very minute. They're certainly in Colorado. So, good morning to you both.
And good afternoon, evening to you, Graham. It's great to be here. Yeah, it's a chilly morning. It's a classic Colorado Rocky Mountain morning here, and but we're happy to be with you today.
Good. Um, Jeff, Durango Silverton Rail, it's something that rail line from Durango up to Silverton has been going for a long, long time. The rail engines that you have, the railway transport that you have is absolutely superb. You know, I've been on it and I was absolutely enthralled by it. Tell me a little bit more about what it is. You know, where does it go from? Where does it go to? What did it do in the past, and what does it do now?
Well, it's quite an interesting history, Graham. The little 45-mile branch of railroad that we have right now from Durango, Colorado to Silverton, Colorado, is nestled in the Four Corners area of the region of the state of Colorado. Really not far at all from the New Mexico border, just an hour away. Very close to the Four Corners. A lot of the native ruins out here, Monument Valley, many things that are kind of iconic, if you will, about the American West. Um, the reason the railroad actually even is here, even got here in the first place, it was part of a branch line of a major extension of a 3-foot narrow gauge railroad that started in Denver in 1871, the Denver and Rio Grande Railway. And that railroad came south to Colorado Springs and went through some various back in the area of all the moguls and the railroad barons, if you will. There was a lot of competition, and fortunes turned the railroad toward the mountains of Colorado and also a main line into Utah. So it was a pretty extensive narrow gauge railroad system at one time. The lion's share of it started to turn to broad gauge, standard gauge, as we call it over here, in the 1890s, but quite a chunk of it remained 3-foot gauge well into the 1960s. And I'm speaking of freight traffic and commerce, not a tourist line, if you will.
Sure.
Um,
And what
and
were the origins of it? Was this commercial or passenger or a combination of both at the beginning? This extensive rail network in Colorado.
the beginnings were very much patterned toward freight to tap into the mining regions and all the rural agriculture that went along with growing the West, if you will, you know. But to be fair, passenger service and tourism, even of that era, was a big part of its early history. And there was a lot of promotion nationwide about the wonder of Colorado and the scenery that was out here. So that part of our business got started kind of early. What's interesting is the fact that we have this branch line today dedicated to tourism is was nothing. It was quite by accident, really, because the railroad, the original railroad, the Denver and Rio Grande, wanted to abandon this line and made some concerted efforts to get rid of this line as early as the 1950s and into the early 1960s. But organically, the public began to discover this railroad, you know, especially after the Second War, with the fascination of the Old West, highways being built, American families just started to hit the road coming west. And it was a perfect opportunity to ride this little vintage train that was left here, still doing a mixed passenger and freight run from Durango to Silverton. And Durango being just kind of a really sweet little town with a lot of charm to it, people began to become attracted to it. And year by year, from the late 40s on, it began to grow into a tourist attraction that really couldn't be denied. And so it's not that we really recreated it as a heritage railway. We just kind of woke up about 40 to 50 years ago and found out what we had here, if you will. And it's been growing ever since. And obviously, over the last 40 years, heavily maintained as a heritage railway.
Good. Martha, what's the if I was to come to Durango tomorrow and I wanted to go to Silverton, let's assume the line is open and there's no big snowfall or anything. What's the procedure? You know, I buy a ticket. How long does it take me to get to Silverton? How long do I have in Silverton? what's the modus operandi of everybody that gets on there?
Well, most people book a ticket online, go to durangotrain.com. And right now we're just running to Cascade Canyon, which is about halfway. But we'll start going to Silverton in May, May 2nd this year. And so it's a 3.5 hour train excursion up to Silverton. And then you have an option of, you have like a 2 hour layover before your return train ride. We do have a Skyway tour where you can take the train one way and a motor coach the other way, where you will travel like part of the, was it million dollar
$1 million
highway?
highway. Yeah.
So you get two different views, but most people like the round trip Silverton train. It's an all day excursion. It's an all day experience, and Silverton is really unique. It's cute, adorable, authentic old mining town, really interesting, lots of history. So, and it's kind of in a caldera, is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Like you gotta have mountains all around, but you're in a kind of a low lying
Sure, a
area
little
near
bowl,
the
yeah.
river.
Beautiful mountain park. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
beautiful.
must admit, when I went there, I was expecting John Wayne to come strolling down the middle of the street
Yeah.
with his guns blazing. But Silverton is a really fantastic place to go to, as you say. It's fascinating. It's like getting in a time machine to go when you go up there. But Jeff, why do you feel, and you and your colleagues and your company feel it's not just a commercial enterprise, it's really a social and a passion enterprise to keep these trains going? Why do you think it's so important?
Well, it really is. What I think I love so much about our staff here, and it's quite a large staff here. During different times of the year, we have well over 200 individuals working here. The heart and soul of so many folks here are deeply invested in sharing the story and the history of this railroad. And some of us, I think, just naturally have a proclivity to love history and seek it out for reasons we don't even understand. There are a lot of folks that come here for the first time and they see the equipment, they see the locomotives, they see the locale in the mountains, and there's something that captures them, kind of like the experience of being in Silverton and seeing an old Western or John Wayne. Our location has been used for many Western movies. There's a lot of lore here. In fact, we've just been working with Kevin Costner's group for Horizon. We're going to be in some of the future episodes with them. And there's something that just captures everyone about this area. The wonderful thing about the history of our equipment is that our coaches go all the way back, some of them to the 1880s, and our steam power into the 1920s. The most modern part, probably, of course, to the uninitiated, our 1920s locomotives basically look 19th century. They're old steam engines, but they're very capturing the experience of being around these steam locomotives the first time for someone that has not been around steam is pretty overwhelming, and it's touching, isn't it? And it sticks with you for a long time. It holds quite a first impression. And the trip up the canyon, just continuing on with what Martha said, is just beautiful. It's alongside a river far away from highway access. It's truly like a wilderness experience when you get up that canyon, and it's which brings a lot of joy to the experience, and also a lot of challenges in maintaining it. It's quite raw
Yeah.
in some ways, you know.
I'm sure. When I was there, one of the highlights as well was the museum in Durango, which is like a slice of life in the past. How is that created? Who curates the items? And it was really a big surprise for me, really, and how good it was.
Thank you. We really are thankful for that museum. Al Harper is our owner, and his family, the Harper family, own the Durango and Silverton Railroad as they do American Heritage Railways and many other subsidiaries. And Al really was a big part with a gent named Jeff Ellingson years ago, who has now since retired, in beginning that museum. And the dream and the goal was to build it not just to be strictly interpreting railroad history, but Al really envisioned it as a place of wonderment with little pieces of slices of life that were historical, certainly, but also just different cultural things that he could share. And a lot of it, Al jokes, is his man cave, things that just appeal to him and he wants to share with the general public. And now we have a newer curator, Harris Abernathy's been with us over a couple of years, and he's just doing a fine job continuing that. The museum sometimes will bring in to 600 people a day. Here in the peak season, we did that this last December, and it is open for the public, gratis, living on donations. It's a gift, really, that the railroad has wanted to give to the railroad community and everyone visiting here.
Martha, do you do any special train journeys like at Thanksgiving or Christmas and July the 4th? Or do you have special events going on?
Yes, we do. Probably our biggest one in the year is the Polar Express train ride, which starts in November and goes through the holiday season. That's our largest and just a very cool event where you have Santa boarding at the North Pole. The train goes to the North Pole and picks up Santa, and then Santa comes and through each car and gives out the first gift of Christmas to each passenger. So it's a very, very cool thing. Very cool event.
We know that you have the Polar Express train rides going on in the UK as well, as I understand.
Yes, we do. Yeah, and obviously it's the famous film and with Tom Hanks, etc. But yeah, do any of these events involve music? I've seen some people that actually play guitar and sing, like Johnny Cash. I don't know if you can perhaps clear that one up.
Well, our newest and shortest and only evening excursion is happening again. It started last year in 2024, and it's continuing into 2025 on select dates during the summer season. It begins with like late May, and it runs in select dates like through the summer. But we had a ukulele player last year, and what else?
Cowboy singers,
guitar,
yes, yeah. Hence the Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Occasionally, Al lets me sing "Ring of Fire" to him on the train.
Yeah, and it's our shortest, so people like to come in and take it up into the High Line, and then it backs up, turns around at Rockwood, and comes back into town.
So, excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time this evening or this morning. I hope it's not too cold when you go outside the office. And I very much look forward to coming back at some point in the future. It was a splendid experience for me. I'm sure anybody that hasn't been, they should go, because as you say, it's a trip into the wilderness. It's a trip into somewhere you would never get to by foot or by car, only by train. And all of the other things, the historical things around it, including the Silverton and including Durango itself. It's fantastic. So once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Graham. Great
Thank you.
time.